It's an interesting development in Lagos State. We'll continue to follow up and know what next as far as Lagos Assembly is concerned. But let's tell you, the leadership tussle now settled in Lagos. We head to Rivers State, where the House of Assembly has given the governor, Governor Siminala Ifubara, 48 hours to present or represent to them the 2025 appropriation bill for consideration. This was part of the deliberations at plenary earlier on Monday, following last week's Supreme Court judgment.
At today's plenary at the Rivers State House of Assembly, the Deputy Speaker moves a motion to give Governor Siminala Ifubara 48 hours to present the 2025 budget on the floor of the House.
Mr. Speaker, the committee is recommending, arising from our engagement with the lawyers, that this House should resolve on the issue of the 2025 appropriation law. The House should resolve that the governor should immediately, within 48 hours, present before this House as ordered by the Supreme Court, as directed by the Supreme Court.
This motion is supported by other lawmakers, with Honorable Igwe Aforji pointing out that they need to go on recess as they have been working non-stop for the past 2 years.
Again, this House should quickly draw the governor's notice to those laws and how the local government should be run, and how it is unknown to law, it's alien to law for HLDAs to run local government.
Bring the 2025 budget. That's our focus. Just bring the 2025 budget so that Rivers people will not suffer. I will quickly align with that prayer and also say that the government of Rivers State should make haste, because if our time has reached for us to go to recess, let it not be that the Rivers State Assembly are not sensitive to what is happening in the state, because it is time for us to address.
In his remarks, the Speaker, Martin Amewuli, says the House will write the governor asking him to present the 2025 budget to the Assembly.
Again, members from the comments are unanimous that 48 hours ultimatum should be given to the governor, because Rivers people can no longer wait to have an appropriation law.
Speaking further, Mr. Amewule explains that the Supreme Court's judgment has created a lacuna which they will address before any council elections can be held in the state.
What it means is that the onus is now on this House of Assembly to review these two laws and come up with amendments that will make these laws to now become consistent with the Electoral Act.
The House then adjourns to the 6th of March 2025 without any mention of the 2024 budget, and it's not yet clear what the lawmakers' intentions are in that regard. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
We've been joined on the program to espouse these issues as far as the state assemblies in Rivers and Lagos is concerned by the National Secretary of Campaign for Democracy, Mr. Olufemi Lawson. Joins us from Akure in Ondo State. Mr. Lawson, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Apparently, we're in for quite interesting times. So let's unpack it one step at a time. Let's begin with Rivers State, which is the report you just saw being played there. And at the end of the day, they say represent the budget as instructed by the Supreme Court, and they have even given the governor 48 hours to do that. The ultimatum given by the members of the Assembly, would you consider it hasty, smart, or just in line?
I think it is hasty. Hasty because the same Assembly, by passing that resolution, expressed its interest in going on recess from the 7th of March, which is going to be about 2 days' time. Now, if this budget is represented because of time, because we don't want Rivers people to suffer, then is it only the recess that the Assembly will sit to deliberate on this budget, invite the relevant ministries, and do what is needed about this, budget is eventually passed? I think beyond the decision of the Supreme Court, the Assembly should now be ready to explore the political options of working with the governor in the overall interest of the people of Rivers State. And that is what seems to be still missing with our resolution.
If you look at the rhetorics, it's clearly like we're far from, the crisis is far from over. As you've clearly mentioned, they intend to go on recess because they've not rested for 2 years, according to them. they want to go on recess, as you've rightly asked. If this is important, document is as important as you want it to be, which is actually, why would you want to proceed on recess? So is the budget going to wait for it? That's one angle of the argument from their own end. So we're looking at tone or rhetorics of the players now. If you come to the governor's side, he was speaking yesterday, and he made a statement that people may say borders on, threat or violence or whatever. Depending on how you interpret it, when he said he's ready to lead from the front, he's not a supporter of violence, but ready to lead from the front, he's ready to die for this cause. So talk to us about what should be the new rhetoric as far as this, now that the Supreme Court has given a bit of close to closure, some sort of statement, a judgment from the Supreme Court.
The intervention of the Supreme Court solves the legal arguments around the decision of the Assembly and the governor over the past. But that has not solved the question of the political logjam in Rivers. The Supreme Court intervention is good to the extent that it has addressed the conflicting areas as far as jurisdiction, powers of the executive, powers of the Assembly. But the bigger thing is how political options will be explored in addressing this issue as far as it will not affect governance in Rivers. The Supreme Court judgment, from all indications, may not be enough to address this issue. For instance, giving 48 hours for budget to be presented. It's going to prepare in 48 hours. Can this House, ratify a budget in 48 hours? No. So these actors, irrespective of their differences, must now be ready to sit together and explore areas of working in the interest of the people of Rivers State.
So in your view, before we come to the issue of Lagos Assembly and what has played out here, 48 hours, which is for 24 hours by our time, if the governor does not present the budget, then what happens? What do you think will happen next?
Well, I would expect that by the time that written communication is sent to the governor should appropriately respond and give. I'm not speaking for the governor anyway. If he has the capacity to present it, even in 24 hours, he should go ahead. And if he does not, he should formally state that to the Assembly so that he can harmonize and agree on the time that this budget will be presented to the Assembly.
Okay, let's come to Lagos. I want your general overview of what played out in Lagos, because a lot of people have interpreted it in different ways. 49 days at the saddle. Mojisola Miranda resigned yesterday, and Obasa was re-elected. She was re-elected as Deputy Speaker. You could see clearly in the room a lot of angry and unhappy faces. Even Obasa himself was looking fierce, and everybody was just in a gloomy state. Some people were literally crying in tears. We saw a few lawmakers. What do you make of what is playing out there?
Thank you. The things we saw yesterday were enough to tell you that what was achieved at the Assembly yesterday was a piece of the graveyard. The questions that led to the conflict have not been addressed. What the Assembly did was to cut corner towards finding a resolution to a crisis that persists, because the former Speaker, Mrs. Miranda, claimed she was stepping down in the interest of the party and the House. Where have they put the interest of the people who owns the institution that they find themselves today? You came out in your majority and accused a man of corruption, of mismanagement, and all sort of allegations. But now, you have come to tell us that the interest of your party and the interest of members, just 40 of you, overrides the collective interest of Nigerians, of Lagosians who own the resources that claim to be protected. What happened yesterday was a charade. It is disgraceful, and I think it's a shame on democracy, especially in a state that prides itself as a symbol of democracy.
To the House and shall forthwith proceed.
Say hi. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
So this is a, if you, Mr. Alufemi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is a clear case of we understand the GAC intervened. People like Baba Konde, Baba Oshoba were all in Lagos to make sure they intervened, perhaps on behalf of the president. So when you come to the issue of non-state actors like the GAC who have wield a lot of influence, their position in the affairs of the Lagos State House of Assembly, this case being an example, how would you describe their position? Stability or control or something in between?
No, they have roles to play. No, in our previous conversations, I've had to mention that the party was not doing its job in the first place. They have roles to play because these people are elected on the platform of the party, but haven't failed to play that role as had when due, when expected. I think coming at a time that the decision has been taken by the majority, that a new leadership has emerged, to now revert and bring back a leadership that's been accused of so many forms of mismanagement and corruption is shortcoming on the part of the party leadership. And you see what is called party supremacy in itself. It's not about what the Baba of the party or what the chairman of the party says. Thank God, many of the people in APC today are products of the progressive ideology in the Southwest. You know, the Awolowo politics of AG, FPN, AD, ACN, people like Baba Konde, were all disciples of Awolowo. The late stage for those people who follow his politics himself, when you talk about party supremacy, it's about what majority does in the party. Chief Awolowo was defeated on a number of times by members of his party while taking decisions, including while choosing candidates for elections during the days of PN. If majority have decided in the assembly, and we now say party supremacy coming after 40-something days, where was the party on the first, second day? And until it means the party could not tell Obasa not to go to court. Obasa is still in court, but the party could reverse a decision taken by the majority. I think the party supremacy has to be redefined to the extent that to reflect the wish and aspiration of the majority of members of the party, not the wish and aspiration of one leader or the other.
Mr. Alufemi, in all of the conversations we've had, as far as the Lagos state is concerned, I don't think I can remember the name of the chairman of the party in the state at a go. We've always heard of either the governor, the state assembly, or Basa, the president, GAC. Somehow, APC is missing in the conversation as a political party recognized by law, because the GAC is just a formation of their interest to manage all of this at the end of the day. So, but there are different ways people view this, and you've rightly pointed it out in one way or the other. The House of Assembly, its independence away from any form of externalities, whether it's party or not, for it not to be able to stand on its decision that in 48 hours there was a flip-flop of position. What does that say to the independence of the subnational legislature? Juxtapose it with what's going on in Rivers State.
It's a terrible development. It undermines the independence of the legislature. And that is a fear a lot of people have about the sustainability of this democracy in a situation where the legislature is not controlled from the governor's office. It is controlled by someone else outside, maybe possibly with the federal power. We can rarely boast of a reasonable number of legislative in Nigeria is not under the control of one governor or one godfather. This does not speak well, and it tells you that if the tripod, the executive, legislature, judiciary, that this democracy is standing upon, if one is defective, there may be danger for the remaining two. The democracy must stand on the tripod of the executive, legislative, and the judiciary. And if we deliberately undermine the sustainability of one, it's really danger for democracy. And this is what political actors are trying to undermine, not minding the dangers ahead. Here's not taking.
So in wrapping up the conversation, Mr. Lawson, as we begin to wind down, what do you think we can do as civil society, as citizens, to enforce independence of the arms of government? Because this is the reason why people did not know, but they got to realize when IBB wrote his book, why the military had to form SDP and NRC. It was formed by the military because they didn't want to hear founders and money bags and godfathers. They just wanted everybody to be joiners. Not many people know that those parties were formed by the military. Say, now you're a politician, join any of these two at the end of the day. It kind of worked. What model do you think we can use? It worked to a large extent, but it was overtaken at some point. What model do you think can be used to insulate the institutions from each other, judiciary, the legislature, and everybody standing on their own without these interferences? In 1 minute.
You see, what is responsible for this? I put the whole context in the pocket of the Constitution we currently operate. This Constitution has given undue advantage to some groups, some categories, some arms of government in this country. We must go back and rewrite what we call the Nigerian Constitution to the extent that it will be built on equity, fairness, and justice, not just for the operatives alone, but for all citizens and stakeholders in the project.
Campaign for Democracy has been at the vanguard of some of these things, even in those areas. But most thank you so much for your thoughts as we continue to deliberate on how to make the most of our democracy. But most thank you, Mr. Olufemi Lawson is the National Secretary of this Campaign for Democracy, joining us from Akure in Ondo State. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you.